Right, a very good morning, the people who are watching us live on the KOKOLIRIKO show. My name is Frederick Dramadri. I'm here together with Faris Madzit that will be diving into so many issues. But first things first, today is 23rd of August 2023. We are left with a few days to close the month. But also there's need for us to evaluate whatever we have been doing throughout this year and how really we are coping up with the agenda that we set, the plans that everyone set to really do a lot of the maybe the development agenda that you set. Are you achieving the goals? Those are things you really need to evaluate very fast, as we are left with just like 4 months to close the year. That is very, very paramount. First things first, people who are watching us within Arua City, we say thank you. Those in Arua District, Mariokolo, Maracha, Koboko, Yumbe, Adjumani, I will say really you are most welcome. I will say also I salute those who are watching us from the Lurusha region. Talk about Pakwat, Nebi and Zompo. Not leaving out those who are in the Cholsa region that who are really also watching us from that side. This is the KOKOLIRIKO show that runs from Monday to Friday every week. So we'll be moving into so many issues that are happening within our communities, within our region, the nation, and the continent at large. So those are things that we'll be diving into. Maybe Faris, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Frederick. A very good morning to you, our dear viewer. You're most welcome to the KOKOLIRIKO show. Frederick, I must say yesterday was a very busy day, you know, whereby we did see a lot of things, but some of these things, I believe, we are to our surprise. And to our dear viewer, you shall be unfolding all those things that happened yesterday, which you did not know. But I know some of you may be surprised. All you need to do is just stay locked, and we shall be giving you...
By the way, one of the surprise things was, much as the region is experiencing hot weather, yesterday there was a heavy rain with hailstorms that really destroyed school property in Karakafe Parish, that is in Vurasau County yesterday. That is one of the shocking news that came this morning, by the way. Faris, yes. Did you expect this to happen, or really this is also something that is surprising you?
You know, currently the world is experiencing climate change. That cannot surprise me, because we know how climate change is now impacting. Because at this period of time, we do not expect rains. We do not expect heavy rains with hailstorms that happened yesterday. But I believe it is because of the climate change that we are seeing right now. Frederick, if you have to look at the world right now, several things are happening, and some of these things did not happen in the past years, but now they are coming now. That really shows us how climate change is now impacting. So it really goes back to us to see that maybe if we can be able to avert some of these challenges, more so through listening to what the climate change experts are saying, like planting more trees, I think that would help. And maybe at the end of the day, we shall be avoiding these changes in the nearby future. But those people who lost their property, let me hope no lives were lost. But we just want to...
there's no one who died in this instance.
If there's no life lost, then the property, we shall always get the property back, because life has no spare. If you're gone, you're gone. But those who lost their property, we are saying, we are sorry, we are really crying with you. We hope you will recover out of this.
Yeah, this really calls for the disaster management committees. Are they active in the sub-counties? Are they active in the districts? That is the assignment we leave to the stakeholders, especially in the local governments, because these disaster management committees are the people who respond to these kinds of calamities that really come abruptly to maybe destroy or maybe cause havoc in our communities. These are people who really tell the ministry for the ministry for that is responsible for disaster management in this country, that there's this situation that has really left people in dire need of maybe support. That those are the group of people who do those assessments and also report those incidences at national level. Maybe first, let's come back to this issue of drug shops really failing to cope up with the waste management, proper waste management proposals that the city has been fronting so much in relation to the management of waste in the urban centers. This has come really in light of the meetings that the City Development Forum is organizing in Arua City, targeting the issues of community engagements, issues to do with health, environment, and so on. Those are things they are fronting. Now, Arua City is threatening to close drug shops over poor waste management methods that they are using. Maybe Faris, what are the experiences that you have really got in as far as the management of these drug shops is concerned, and also how they contact businesses vis-a-vis the issues of waste management?
First of all, if you look at the issue of garbage disposal by these drug shops, I do not know. We have seen them disposing sometimes medical waste on the way. We have seen this happening. You find medical waste being distorted and then thrown on the path sometimes, which we know how all these things can be dangerous to the lives of human beings. So we know how the drug shops have been disposing garbages poorly, maybe in the cities, littering the whole city, and then that becomes a risk to the lives of the people. But the issue of closing the drug shops, Frederick, I will disagree a bit with the government and the people behind the proposal to close these drug shops. First of all, if you look at...
Actually, it is not a proposal, it is a directive from the city mayor yesterday.
This directive,
yes.
I want to disagree with it because, first of all, if you look at the rate of employment opportunities these drug shops have created. Look at the number of nurses who are always coming out from these medical facilities, and most of them are not taking up the government sector, so they have to find alternatives, and one of the alternatives these people usually find is opening up drug shops.
So should we expose people because we want to employ the few who will be benefiting from these drug shops, other than prioritizing the issues of waste management? Look at the medical wastes, which are really dangerous to human beings. We expected the drug shops also to have incinerators. If they don't have, they should be able to liaise with those that have those kind of things to dispose of the wastes. So really, if you are talking about employment and so on, and really, yes, I will still say no to that.
This is it. We have companies that are responsible for collecting waste from medical facilities. We have none of these companies. So what I think the drug shops can do is that let them give the contracts to these people who will be able to collect the drugs, because these people know what exactly to do in terms of disposing of these garbages. They know how to treat the garbages before, because it's not a matter of only going to dispose, but before disposing it, maybe if you want to destroy it, these people know the procedures of what to do. So I think what drug shops can do maybe at this time is let them employ these people, let them give the contracts to these people to do the collection of the medical waste. At the end of the day, it will help them. Why am I saying this? We have seen it happening in other regions, which I have not seen here. I've not seen any company responsible for collection of medical waste here, but in other places we have seen them. For instance, in Central, we have companies that only deal in collection of medical waste. They move to the health facilities. They are contracted by the health facilities to be collecting the garbages. So at the end of the day, it is their mandate to do what? Dispose of this garbage. Then it comes back. What punishment can you give the people who do not want to comply with the rules and regulations that you are putting in place? Then this is where the issue of closure should come in. Because if you are to say that we are going to be closing all these drug shops, what about those other drug shops that have been complying? It will be unfair to them, because we have had drug shops that maybe know what to do exactly in terms of.
But of course, the closure,
we have seen them banning. Yes. We have seen some drug shops. I personally have seen this. I've seen drug shops that have been collecting the medical waste in one place, and then at a particular period of time disposing them off by banning them. So I think that will help the drug shops. But if you are to say we are going to be closing all the drug shops, Frederick, let's mind about the economy. We have known how many drug shops are employing several youths out there. Frederick, I just asked you here, how many medical schools have you seen out there? Most if you look at the nursing schools that are producing a lot of people now. Because after Senior 4, we have seen this happening. Most of our learners in this region, most of the ladies, you know how parents of this region have been taking these girls, have been branching off these ladies from Senior 4 direct to go for these courses. And one of the courses these people have actually been going for is nursing. So what about these thousands and thousands of nurses that are always yearly coming out from the medical schools, from the nursing schools? Where are they going to head to? And who is going to employ them? So I think the issue of closing these drug shops, to me, will not work and should not work, because it is creating employment opportunities for several other nurses out there. Several nurses, if you look at the nurses, we have the girls out there. So closing the medical facilities, closing these drug shops will create more unemployment in the region. So at the end of the day, these people will be rendered jobless because the government sector cannot accommodate all these people. The jobs are very few at the government facilities. The government facilities are also very few. What about these nurses who are coming yearly in, year out? Who is going to cater for them? Who is going to employ them? So I think the issue of closure of these drug shops shouldn't work, but what the government needs to do is now take up measures, maybe to curtail this issue of the poor garbage disposal. At the end of the day, I think it will help both parties. It will help the government, and then at the same time, it will also help these issues, these people behind the drug shops. That is what I think of the whole situation.
Okay, if you look at the directive from the city mayor, that is Wadsham Nyakua, that they are actually closing these drug shops that are not complying with immediate effect. I mean, with immediate effect. That means by the start of today, we expect drug shops that are not complying to the guidelines set by the environmental office, health officers, the health inspectors, and maybe the health officers to be closed by now. Okay. That is looking at the issues around waste management, the issues around also how they comply with the guidelines that are set by NDA, and also looking at who is that person serving the patients in that facility. You realize that if you move to some of these drug shops, much as I may be the professional person who has registered this drug shop, and I'm not there to serve the people, what kind of service do I deliver in these drug shops? But also, how do I cope up with the management of waste in this facility? Talk about the syringes. Faris, you will believe with me that when these syringes drop anywhere, it is very, very dangerous. Children can pick it, anyone can step on them, and we will have these issues of cancer, issues of some of these diseases, infections that we'll be getting because of these kind of things. So I believe that this directive has come timely because we have so many mushrooming drug shops that are not really complying to some of these guidelines. Look at, you move to the rural areas, the outskirts of the city center, you'll have so many drug shops, even within the city center. So many of them, but you wonder where these people are keeping the wastes. But also, if those are really not catered for, I don't believe that all the drug shops are not compliant, but there are few. If we leave those few, the rest of the drug shop owners will be able to learn from those.
Frederick, just to add on what you're saying, I think the compliance does not only stop on the issue concerning waste management. We have seen these drug shops many times also employing people who do not qualify. This goes back to the drug shop owners now. The people who are opening these facilities, and sometimes you find most of them actually work in the government facilities. Now they do not have time. So they will have to employ for people who will be sitting for them there. And at times you see them really going out for people who do not qualify, people who do not have the background of the profession. So at the end of the day, these people have to deliver government service, medical service to the masses. And then the masses who do not know actually about this also get the services from this people. So how is this going to affect the service delivery? What kind of risks are we putting the masses into? So I think it goes back to the drug shop owners also to have a look at it, that if they're employing people, let them employ people who qualify. The nurses are very many out there. Go for them. Pay them the amount of money that really suits them. But now it goes back to them. They do not want to employ the professionals. Sometimes they go for these people who do not even have the background and do not know exactly what they're doing. So it is, when they come, this people teach them. So I think
because of the cost implication,
yes, because of cost implication now. So I think it goes back
for those. Yeah.
I think now it goes back to also the people now, the authorities who are going to be doing the inspection. Let them also have a look at it, that the people who are working in these facilities have the right professional background. They know what they're doing. They are qualified. So at the end of the day, that's when we shall be seeing an improvement in these facilities. Because if you're employing somebody who is not qualified, he or she will not even know how to take care of the garbage. So at the end of the day, he will be only looking at it and dumping it there anyhow. So I think these people who are going to be doing the inspection also need to ensure that the people who are in these drug shops are qualified. At the end of the day, we shall be seeing service delivery improvement.
Okay. Okay, I will conclude like this by saying if really we have people who are really going to take this decision positive, then we really need to appreciate that. All those who really want to comply, let's do it. But those who are not really listening, that is your problem, and then we'll be able to see that your drug shop is closed, or maybe your license is revoked. Those are the terms that have been put there. So away from Arua City, looking at the issues of civil servants really coming into contact with the law, who are conflicting with the law. I mean, being the topmost persons, the perpetrators of gender-based violence in Arua district. This was one story that ran in the Nilecast, but also it is a touching issue. These are people who work with the communities. These are people who work with the children themselves. These are people who have families. Why is it that civil servants are the people who are now singled to be the biggest perpetrators? First of all, the issues that came in the discussions when they were discussing the issues around the GBV concerns in Arua district. One sub-county that was singled to be leading was a GS sub-county in the GBV coordination meeting that took place in Arua district boardroom. GS sub-county was leading with 147 cases reported just within the 7 months of this year. So if you look at that statistics, majority of the perpetrators come from the civil service. Talk about the police, talk about the army, talk about the teachers, and teachers are the first in the on the lock, followed by police, followed by the army. So what are the issues around this? One of them was the issues of transfers. Teachers are transferred, they don't want to go with their family, they leave the family in their villages and they go there to really start, I would say, wooing these girls, dating children in schools and so on. Others impregnate them and they decide to run away. One of the hideouts is in Arua City that has been identified, and the investigators are still looking for the perpetrators who have hidden themselves there. And some of these teachers move away from the schools where they have been transferred and they have realized that they have really done something wrong. But also look at the police. The police has the same issue to do with transfers, but also the issues to do with people who handle cases. Okay? A person is coming here to accuse maybe the husband and so on. A woman is accusing the husband. You say, okay, I'm going to solve your issue. Come to me at this time. Somebody marries another person's wife. That is one other thing that really came up in that very laboratory. But also looking at the issues of respecting the sanctions by police, child and family protection unit. When these cases come to police, when they give letters to these civil servants, they tend to violate the rights that have been granted to them. They don't want to respect those sanctions. This is one thing that was also hot on the discussions. Maybe Faris, what do you make of civil servants who are serving the communities, the public, being on the lead with GBV cases? What do you mean? What do you understand from this kind of discussion?
This is very shocking. This is why I said we shall be having shocking revelations on the show, and this is part of the shocking revelations we are talking about. If you have to look at civil servants, these people are meant to be role models to the society, because these people do government work and they are paid by the government. So it is really shocking, but I think those statistics do not lie. GS sub-county must be leading. Now it goes back, and I believe those cases are very few, and more of the cases have actually been left out. And if you have to look at the Child and Family Protection Unit, this is the entity of Uganda Police that is meant to be dealing with the issues related to JBV. And what challenges is this facility facing? If you have to look at this facility, it is really facing a lot of challenges. First of all, the limited manpower at the facility. If you move there, you will find out that there are very few officers in this office. And then the environment in which these people are operating from, it is also very minimal. It is very small for them. So I think it goes back to them. That is why people at times tend not to obey these directives that the office is passing. If you look at people tearing, you heard of the situation when people tear these warrant letters given to them. So it really goes back to the people, also to the government, to have a look at it, that these facilities are also properly catered for. Now, coming back to the issue of civil servants topping the list, this is very shocking. but it shouldn't be a shock to you too. Because if you had to look at these civil servants who move, you have seen them, you have seen the police officers moving. At times, really, they move alone. They leave their wives behind, not because they wanted, but they are forced to do so. If you had to look at the transfers, you have seen the transfers for these different civil servants. If you had to look at Uganda police, usually they are packed in one car, and all of them have to be transferred. So they leave behind their families, and when they go to these new places, they start finding other options, which at the end of the day do not suit what they are doing and backfires. How does it backfire? The wives start complaining. That's when you will see an increase in the cases of domestic violence. So at the end of the day, these disagreements all contribute to the rising cases of GBV in the region. Now, civil servants, I believe, they are not following. Why that is the case is that most of them do not follow the code of ethics that they're supposed to follow. What do I mean? The professional code of conduct of the civil servants, they're not following. Most of them are not following it. Why do I say this? This is because these people signed the code of conduct, and in the code of conduct, one of them is that they were supposed to be responsible. They are supposed to be role models to the society. They are not supposed to be doing things that will ridicule their profession. So I think this also goes back to it. They are not following out the code of conduct which they signed, and now it is upon the policymakers to also have a look at it, that if they put stringent measures to these civil servants, more so these who contribute, who do cases that do not suit them. We talked about the case of finding new lovers, and this is the teachers. At times they also go to these schools and start dating these young girls. For instance, in secondary and primary, we see these shocking revelations happening. So it really goes back to them. And I think if the government comes up with stringent measures, at the end of the day, we shall be seeing a reduction in the cases of GBV in this region, because this is now a global concern. GBV is not only a regional concern, but it's a global concern. That is why we have 2 weeks, I think, in which month, I cannot remember very well, in which they honor and fight GBV. So I think it's a global concern now. It starts with you. It is upon everybody to start to see that we fight GBV together.
Okay, if you look at the various forms of gender-based violence that were highlighted, that really were as a result of these kind of conflicts between the civil servants and the people they serve, we will realize that one of the leading forms was the teenage pregnancy cases, but also followed by child neglect, family neglect, and then also failure to provide for the family. Then look at the issues around defilement and so on. Those are the major forms of gender-based violence that were highlighted. But also, if you look at the issues that are contributing to this, one of them was the issues of drug addicts, people who actual alcoholism was top on the lock, looking at that, but also the issues of disco operations within the district, and also the issues of funerals, turning really those kind of music the whole night that bring also people from various areas. But majority of the children really attend to some of these things. That's where they really come into conflict with, come to be the victims of GBV at that moment. But also if you look at the issues of transfers and also the issues of people really prioritizing polygamy, is one of the factors that really contributes so much into people neglecting their families, their children, and so on. That's one thing that was spelled out there. But also, Faris, what do you make of the issues around disco regulations in most of these rural areas? Because you realize that majority of the disco places in the rural areas are really wanting, they don't really fulfill some of these conditions that were set for someone to put a disco, looking at the environmental aspect, looking at the issues around health, looking at also the issues around security in these places.
If you have to look at the discos in the rural areas, it is happening in the whole of West Nile. I've seen this, at least if I've not seen, I've heard of stories of disco operators in West Nile. Recently, the LC5 of our district was complaining about the local discos in the areas. And then just the other time, the LC5 of Madioko also, on one of the radios, also complaining about the issues of local discos. So how is this contributing to the crime rate in the areas? You know, disco moves with a lot of things. First of all, if you move to discos, you will need, one, you will need drugs. Drugs, it is 90% that you will need drugs, because your sober mind will not be, I believe somebody who is sober cannot enjoy what is happening in discourse. So if these people go for this discourse, one, they will have to go for drugs. And you know these drugs that they go for alcohol, they go for these other drugs, opium, mairungi, what. So to keep them sober in that state of which they want. So it goes back to them. And then most of these disco operators, it still also goes back to the government. Sometimes when these discos are put up and they're not destroyed, you wonder why. And police comes to these places and leave the discos as they are without stopping them, because most of these discos do not comply with the regulations. Frederick, 18 and over is not sometimes catered for in these discos. You find a young girl of 15, 12, and young boys, and for the people, they mind about numbers. And when it comes to numbers, for them, they need money. Because this is what the organizers want. For them, they want the money. And they will always have to look out for the numbers that they will shoot. And when they are looking out for the numbers, they will not mind of who is entering in. That is when you find that most of the discos today are not regulated. And it is really calling for our stakeholders' intervention. Because at the end of the day, if these discos are not regulated, we are seeing how their impacts on the society. We have seen the increase in the defilement cases. We have seen an increase in rape. And then we have seen an increase in the early teenage pregnancies, early marriages. We have seen them. And one of the contributors to all this is the discos, because the young children sneak and go for these discos. And sometimes they get out of control and then maybe mess at the end of the day. That is how the discos are so implicating negatively on the society. So I think the discos in this region need to be regulated, because the regulations to me is still not enough. If you got these happening places, Frederick, you have seen, at least you have been to rural areas, you know, these discos are always put in fields. And whoever enters there is not looked out for, even if they are catering for that 18 and above.
It's not
children will always come and be around, will always be around, even if they're not allowed to enter in. They will always be around there. So at the end of the day, it messes them and it affects the education system. It is really costing us enough. So I think it goes back to the policymakers to have a look at it, that they have a look into the issue of discourse in this region. If not, we are still going to be witnessing a lot of these issues which I talked about, talking about teenage pregnancy, early child marriages. All this we shall be having a look at. We shall be keeping on reporting on them, because if you move the Office of Child and Family Protection, this is one issue they will always give you in terms of issues of rape, defilement, early marriages, rape. That you always have these contributions coming through from them.
So we have seen so many local governments really coming up with bylaws, but really, how important are these bylaws, and also how are they being enforced? These are the questions really we need to put front, because if you have the laws, you might say, okay, this maybe I would say like this financial year we have been able to enact 2 or 3 bylaws, but are these bylaws really feasibly being worked upon, and also what is their impact? Because I'm meant to understand that these bylaws are created based on the interests of the local governments, and also what really suits what is happening in such a society. So if you have been able to identify the issues affecting your communities, and you have been able to come up with this kind of bylaws, how about the enforcement? Why are you not enforcing them? Because you identified the problem, and that's why you were able to come with these laws. So why is it that it is really hard for you to enforce? Those are things we really expect the LC3 systems, and also I would say the town council authorities, the districts to really take really seriously to enforce, because generally the law of this country does not permit the operations of discourse in any other kind of place other than the urban centers. So in that, there are also conditions that are put. First of all, you need to be considerate of really children not being entering into these disco places, but also looking at the issues of environment. How do you manage waste in these areas? But also, how about the pollution? Sound pollution is very, very important, because what a neighbor will want from you is really convenience for his stay in your around you. So those are things that have been enshrined in the mother law. So if we have this and really bring it down to our local governments and enforce them. I think that is one thing that will reduce some of these cases from being suited. But also look at the issues of polygamous families. This is really risky. If you cannot afford to really run 2 or 3 families, stick to one. But also if you cannot even manage a family, don't marry. That is one thing you need to take seriously. Don't marry, because family is another institution that really needs its funds to be apportioned, because you will not say that you are running a family without an income source. You need to have an income source which is very stable, and also you should be able to bend low to the family members and listen to them. That's where your parliament starts from. You have LC1, your children are there. They manage those other little issues. You have your wife, you are the president in your family, and the last decision is made by this cabinet of you and your wife. So what do you discuss in that cabinet that really comes to the children's maybe mental developments and also social issues that come to this family? That is where you started from. Now, if you leave this family alone, that means the president is not around, and then you expect anything to happen. Either the ministers take over, or they move and everything disintegrates.
But sometimes you also find these children sneaking without the parents knowing, because we have had this happening. A parent warns. And I remember I had one of my cousins, he was even going for PLE. So people warned him at home not to go for disco. But he decided to sneak and go for disco. Do you know what happened? When he was there at the disco, a thief came and stole his bag in the house. A bag that contained his school ID. And then tomorrow he had the PLE. You know, now there you can just paint an image of how he was pressurized and how maybe that disorganized him at the end of the day. So I think it goes back to these children also, to listen to what the parents are saying. To you children, listen to what your parents are saying.
But of course, as a parent, do you provide security for your children? Instead of saying, aha, I've locked them inside, sometimes, do you provide extra security
when you are there? When you are there as parents, sometimes you are busy with your wife there in the farm.
I understand.
Now, the children are also here on their own. So you are there busy in the farm. For them, they're also going out for their issues. So I think it also goes back to the children now. This is my appeal to the children. Listen to what your parents are saying. You need to listen to what the parents are saying, because a parent can never stop for you something that is good, I believe. A parent will always stop for you what is bad. What is good, they will always leave you to continue doing it. So I think it goes back to the learners also, to obey what the parents are telling them. Let them listen to what the parents are telling them at all times, because we have seen this, Frederick. At times they sneak. They do not go without the permission of the parent. I don't think if any parent would actually give permission to the children to go out for disco. I don't think if that would happen in our African tradition here. More so in our culture of Lubara here, I don't think if it would happen. But I believe it is the children now who are going out of hands. That is where I believe sometimes the children are running out, now getting out of hand of the parents. The parents do not have enough control over their children now.
Okay, Faris, what lessons do we pick from these civil servants topping the list of GBV cases in Arua district? First of all, if you look at the people who are seeking for their services from that point of view, assuming you are one of the victims, how do you feel coming back to receive services under this kind of persons? What do you think governments should do in order to maybe stop this kind of vice in the public service?
Yes. First and foremost, I think these civil servants are not obeying the code of conduct of which they signed for. Because I believe civil servants are meant to be role models to society, because why government employed them is to give services to the people. They are there to give services. So if they start behaving that way, then it really tells us that they are not observing the code of conduct and the ethics that which they signed for, which I believe they're supposed to be observing. Secondly, it shows that maybe this is where maybe something is going wrong, which we need to find out solutions for. It means that there's something that is not right, Frederick. If you look at the transfers, why is it that they always leave their families behind? Why can they move with the families? And to these places where these people are moving, is the environment convenient enough to cater for them and their families? Because sometimes I believe these people do not also leave their families behind, not necessarily because they want it, But they are forced to do so. Frederick, if you look at the houses of the soldiers, you have seen that, you have known the status of the houses are not really good, and the environment will not be suitable for them. So at the end of the day, some prefer living behind their families where they think the family is okay. So I think that shows back that something is really wrong. We need to find solutions by the stakeholders. There's need for us to find solutions and solve this issue here. But I believe if it is not catered for, this is still going to be continuing. Then I believe one reason that civil servants are topping the issues is they are always looked up to. You know, civil servants always have issues, and some of these cases most of these cases are actually reported by women. Men do not report these cases, and most of the civil servants are actually male. So if you look at the teachers, if you look at police, you will find that why these people always run to police is because they believe these people have the capability. You will never find a wife of a broker at times running to report to police. Why these cases are topping is because civil servants are in the limelight. They are always there top. And any small issue concerning them always comes out. So I believe that is also another contribution to this issue here concerning the civil servants topping the list of GBV in Arua district.
Okay, let's wind up that discussion with the civil servants really being the biggest, the leading perpetrators of GBV in Arua district with this message. The little salary we receive, please, as civil servants, let's utilize it with our families, let's invest into productive things that we do. But also I believe that all these civil servants have that time for their family, because you don't work for 24 hours, but also you really have also a leave that you're entitled to. So you need to have that time with your family to avoid some of these things. But also let's take up these issues really seriously, especially those who are leading this civil service. Especially, I will say, I'll talk about the cows, I'll talk about the education officers, I'll talk about the commanders and so on. Let's keep on really refreshing our officers. Let's also look at their discipline. Let's check them, and also before issues come out like that. That is all about the civil service. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be diving into other issues. We have seen the IG saying they are now investigating the issues to do with the coffee shop in Arua City that was worth 9.2 billion Ugandan shillings. Those containers are still lying out idle there. We have not seen coffee coming to Arua City. Let's take a break.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
Right, a very good morning. I want to say let's welcome back from that commercial break. We are very happy that it is a bright morning. You are still watching us on the KOKOLIRIKO, so that is on Westnile television here. We were discussing about civil servants who were disappointing their seniors over the issues of GBV, where they are failing to contain the pressure in their families, but also really taking a lead in the issues to do with defilement and also those child marriage issues that are happening in Arua district. Let's move away from Arua district and focus on to this national story that has been also published by different media houses. That is now a top story in this country, where IG is investigating the 9.2 billion coffee shop that has been established in Arua City by Inspire Africa since 2020. So what is behind this, and really what were the components of this initiative that was brought? We saw a lot of trainings that were had some time back for the young people who were supposed to take lead in managing this facility. The facility is under the office of the Prime Minister through the NADS program, and also it is there to cater for the coffee that is being grown here within the region, but also sell it out to people. We have seen some of these containers put by Inspire Africa in different regions. We have seen the one in Gulu that is working, but also here in there in Lira it is also working. It is only Arua that has not up to now taken off. We saw so many business proprietors coming into these containers and trying to do their own businesses other than the coffee. Maybe Faris, yes, you are here with me and you have seen that the coffee shop has been idled. Some of those have been used as houses for the mental disturbed persons who go there and sleep there, but also we have seen a lot of garbage being dumped into that. You remember last year the police retrieved a body of a child who was thrown there. So these are things that are happening here in that coffee shop. So maybe what do you think about this investigation that IG has taken off about the Inspire Africa's coffee project in Arua City?
First of all, we need to understand where this coffee shop is located, where this facility is put up. This facility is just here within town, opposite the Central Police Station. So I think this was in a convenient place whereby it will be able to get market in terms of who go to police there, because we know the numbers that go there. And the passerbys, because this is just on the highway. Many people would actually be getting a lot of money there. But to my disappointment, this facility only worked for a short period of time, I think, because we did see some businesses there, but I believe most of these businesses were actually private businesses, but operating in disguise of the Inspire Africa, because the containers had the labeling and the branding of Inspire Africa Coffee. We did see these things happening. We had ladies who were actually doing good there. They were selling not only coffee, but they also had other things that they were doing there. So I think the place had started picking up. This was between 2020. I think this was between 2020. I did see this place working. But my disappointment, only worked for a short period of time. Now, why is it a concern? A lot of government money that was poured there. If you talk about the 1.92 billion, that is a lot of money. So it really goes back to the people to have a look at it, that government projects that are put in place are observed and taken care of. Why is it coming late? Because we did see this story published on one of the media platforms, the facility lying idle, and then the Inspectorate of Government is now coming to investigate. I think this is the delayed investigations. To me, it has delayed, because this thing needed to be done a long time ago. Because if you have to look at Frederick, for how long this place worked, this place was operating, I think, by private people. We had, as I told you, we had business people doing their businesses there. And the place had started picking up, because if you had to look at the post office down there, this is where the restaurants were, and the coffee shops were up there. So it was easy for people both people to access. The people wanted to go directly to the restaurants, would sloping down there and have a seat and do what they wanted and what brought them. And then for the passerbys at the roadside, they will also find it very easy to branch off and get what they want. And it was really picking up. Now, if we are putting all that money into waste like that, then it really shows that we are abusing government projects and government initiatives, maybe to transform the masses out of poverty. Because right now we are talking about PDM, we are talking about yoga. All these are meant to transform the masses out of poverty. And I believe the coffee initiative would also likewise employ a number of people. Talk about the farmers who will be able to supply the raw materials to these facilities here. It will be employing several people. And then the ladies who will be working there as the waiters, as the waitresses, and then the people who will be working there as the waiters, the waitresses, the managers. So at the end of the day, it will be able to also provide employment opportunities for several people. But this is a country, Frederick, whereby several government projects have been abused. We are talking about the coffee shop right now. The other day on the show, we also discussed about the government facility that is just in Awendere here that is lying idle. And you know how much money that was poured there. And then this is government's money. It is your money. It is the local people who are paying for this money in terms of taxes. But if you are now putting out these facilities to waste like that, then it really means that we are abusing government projects. We are not taking the initiative. We are not benefiting out of the projects because the people who are responsible. It goes back to the people who are responsible for monitoring and observing these facilities to see, have a look at it, that these government projects that are put up in place help the people who are supposed to get the services out of them really do what they're supposed to be doing, rather than just us wasting government funds like that. Because, Frederick, if you had to look at 1.92 billion, this is money that is generated from the people. If you are to put it in waste, and if we are to put this money into other ventures, maybe that will generate more money, it will actually generate more money at the end of the day that will help the local people and then transform the masses out of poverty, as the president is talking about right now. So I think it goes back to the people who are responsible for monitoring these facilities, one of which is IOG, Inspectorate of Government, that has just come up on board right now. So I think they speed up the investigations and see what went wrong and discover what really went wrong. Does it mean that some people swindled the money into their own pockets? Does it mean that some people consumed this money? And who are these people who were entrusted with this project here? Because I believe there were also people who were given these contracts, who were given the mandate to have a look at it, that this facility runs well. Now,
okay, if you look at that project, you move to some of the leaders in the district also, or the city, that were by intent in those positions, that we thought this project would be under maybe in their hands to be monitored and so on. You realize that none of these officers have any information about this project. Talk about the persons responsible for office of the Prime Minister, maybe people who are standing in for the office of the Prime Minister in the district. You will not hear that story about what really happened, but also what are the components of this project. You will not really know that. But also we are well aware that there were young people who were taken to Soroti and others to Gulu for training to really take up this project. But when these people went there and they came back, they came with complaints. One of the issues was they were not paid. Okay? They have been living in a harsh condition. They were not being fed well, and also up to now, some of them have not received their certificates. So what does that mean? Has the service provider done the rightful things that were really put in the program? But also there's need to really investigate whether this money was really used for the intended purpose. Because if you move to that facility right now, much as it was not used, it is already dilapidated. Was it a sod work that was done? Was it something really done within the project time frame, and also looking at the components of the project? Were they all there? That is one thing really IG needs to interest itself into. Also, as they are doing the investigations, I expect them to really interact with some of these young people who went for these trainings to really come and take lead into this, but also the district leaders, because this project by then was under the district. So the district leaders needed to have that interaction with IG to give more information about this, because we cannot really leave that huge amount of money to go into waste, because there are some regions already now reaping the fruits of this kind of facilities that are in their vicinities. Talk about the issues of employment creation, talk about the issues of farmers bringing their raw materials there and also getting ready market, but also talk about the issues of revenue that comes to the local governments. These are things, if we really follow up critical and really, I meant to feel that IG can succeed in this if all the parties are able to give information. That is one thing I will take from this. Maybe Faris, let's conclude on this topic and to wind up.
Just to add on what you're saying, I think all these government projects have one mistake that they are doing. The relation between the different stakeholders, talk about the political wing, the technocrats, and then the people is not being harmoniously catered for very well. If why do I say this? The appointment authorities maybe are not following the right criteria in terms of appointing the right people, in terms of awarding government project contracts to these people. Why do I say this, Frederick? The other time you were at the facility that is in Windri. One issue why it was closed by the leaders here is because they were not informed. So I think likewise the same issue could be happening on the coffee deal also, the coffee business deal. So I think it was not well catered for. That is why we did see a fall in it. Because if that was the case, I believe people will be offering the right guidance in terms of observing and seeing what the facility is doing and how best they could help the facility run. Because if the political wing and the technocrats were working together, trust me, Frederick, this facility will not fail because the market is there. We have the people who go for these things here. That restaurant will not close. If these local hotels cannot close, why is that this huge investment would close? So I think it goes back to the people to have a look at it that maybe they work together. At the end of the day, the local people, what they need is the services, and then we need revenue from these facilities because government does not pour money there just like that. Government also expects returns. So how are we working together? So I believe these people, if they are to work together, maybe at the end of the day we'll be seeing these facilities not closing, because this is not only happening with the coffee shop. We have had several government investments going to waste like that. So I think it is really an issue that needs to be brought to book and addressed once and for all, so that maybe in the nearby future the other government interventions that will be put in place do not just go into waste like that.
Okay, that project really is worth investigating, because looking at the benefits that we talked about, that will be brought to this region. But also let's really take up these projects seriously. When government projects are coming to your district or your maybe village and so on, let's interest ourselves as members of the community. Let's take a lead into understanding what is this being constructed and what is it for and for how long, but also what are the components of what is being constructed. Let's really interest ourselves in following up on some of those issues. But also the leaders, how do you remain adamant when land is being acquired at your place and investments are being put? I don't understand how the district leaders will say they were not involved and they don't know about the project. How did Inspire Africa get this land? That's one question that has really remained unanswered by the district leadership. Because you cannot tell me that you don't know about this project, yet Inspire Africa came and got land and started establishing things, and also recruited young people and trained them in your presence, and you are telling me that you don't know. That is one thing we really need to interest ourselves in if we really want successes to get to our aid from this kind of projects. Let's wind up from here, from me and you, that we really appreciate that you're being giving us that time to watch this program, but also you were able to participate in one way or the other through our YouTube channels, but also through the decoders that you have and also your screens that you are able to watch us from wherever you are. We appreciate the time you are being given to us, but also we appreciate your contributions from all angles. We are here for you, and also you are there for us. Without you, we cannot come and really say something that is affecting you. But also we next time expect that you should be able to also interact with us through our WhatsApp platforms, that is the KOKOLIRIKO Live. Wherever you see any issue that is affecting your community, you should be able to also type it in the message box. But also, in case you want to appreciate the program, you should also put it there. But also, in case you have any queries about whatever we're discussing, those are the moments you'll be able to interact with us. We're out of the studios. Up next, we'll be having the news in Lubarati, brought to you by Feta Emmanuel. And it has been me, Frederick Ramadri, with Faris Majid. We're out of here.